feel like God has really given me amazing grace. Those things that I've done to my body, man, it's amazing grace that, like when my arms went out on me, the Lord gave them back, and He's repairing damage that I don't even deserve repaired after all I did to myself. And then He's brought me to this place, and I kind of fought this place at first. You know, I wanted to be here, but then again, I was in a hurry to get housing and everything.
Right.
And the Lord has really calmed my spirit, so I'm really thankful for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on the same highway as he is, and it's a blessing and amazing that I'm here to help people. You know, Clarence, I didn't even know him from Kingdom Come, and God put me in a position to help him in a time of his needs, and it was a blessing to help him and that was amazing to me and by God, because when I pulled that starter out and put another one in there, it totally changed that motor. And that was amazing. To me, it was amazing. And I just thank God that I was a great help to him. And they told me about my Nissan, that he wasn't going to give me a Nissan. They messed it up. They're going to give me another ride. So they told me to wait till Friday, this coming Friday. And that's amazing too. So everything's all right. And I thank God for it.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Very good. Which, by the way, we're filming you, but that doesn't mean that we have to use that film for anything. So
I love to be filmed.
if you don't want it on a YouTube side or something like that, just
Yes, sir.
tell us and we won't put that part of it on there. So.
This isn't exactly, this is more of a, it is a secular song, but to me it has a good message of it. I don't know how many of us have gone down the road, broken families, being in a situation where I'll speak from my heart. I miss my son. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, and I'm going through some legal battles right now to remedy that. But this has been on my heart and my mind a lot this week, and this song to me is a prayer. I got Easter every Friday, and if I had it my way, the day would not be wasted on this ride. I want somebody to hold you, some of these things I haven't told you, Mom and me just couldn't get along. So I drive and I think about my life and wonder why that I slowly die inside. And every time I turn this truck around, right at the Georgia line, I count the days and the miles back home to you on that Highway 20 ride. The day might come you'll realize, if you see through my eyes, there was no other way to work it out. But you might hate me, son, please don't mistake me for the man who didn't care at all. So I drive and I think about my life and wonder why that I slowly die inside. And every time I turn this truck around, right at the Georgia line, I count the days and the miles back home to you on that Highway 20 ride. So when you drive and the years go flying by, I hope you'll smile if I ever cross your mind. It was the pleasure of my life, and I cherished every time. My whole world, it begins and ends with you on that highway 20 ride. On that highway 20 ride.
That was cool.
Beautiful.
That's a nice song there, man. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, I like that.
So today, our scripture comes from Job. And we've been tracking through the Old Testament. And he's right before Psalms. And it may not be the best day to look in scripture because I'm going to bounce all over the place. And probably won't say where I'm at half the time. So. But the book of Job is a little unique in Scripture. I know y'all been studying the Proverbs, and Proverbs is pretty consistent with the Jewish Jewish mindset and worldview, and it's designed to teach young men primarily how to live as grown men. And in the Jewish world, when you became 12, you were considered a grown man. And you could be counted as a man in worship and go to the synagogue. But, and consistently the message through most of the Old Testament is, if you live a righteous life, you will be rewarded. And if you live an unrighteous life, you will suffer. And, that's generally true in life. And that's just basic common sense. We all know that. We know that if we do things that God or society holds as being ungodly or unsociable, that we'll probably have some pretty poor consequences to suffer as a result of it. But Job takes it from the opposite perspective. He talks about the fact that why do good people suffer? Because that's true also. So sometimes we suffer even though we are righteous. So, and Job isn't unique. Lamentations does the same thing. Lamentations was written by the prophet Jeremiah, who was a very righteous man, a very righteous man. And his calling was to leave his vineyard, leave the family farm, which was very lucrative, and forsake taking a wife, and go to Jerusalem and warn the people who were powerful and rich and could destroy him, that if they didn't turn from their ways, they would fall from God's grace, and God would bring other people in and establish new authorities. And he was untimely in his message because that isn't what they wanted to hear. And they weren't experiencing any consequences for their bad behavior. So people, and particularly the powers that were, threw him in a well, and they persecuted him. And they cursed him and kicked him and treated him really badly. And so he wrote Lamentations, crying out to God, why me? We have the picture of Christ from the New Testament where he seldom, if ever, says, why me, or poor me. But Jeremiah wasn't Christ, and he was more typical of what humans do, and he said, why me? Well, Job is a lot like that. Job is a interesting book. It's uniquely Jewish, and it recognizes the fact that people suffer quite often, not as a result of the consequences of poor choices, but that people sometimes suffer because they suffer, and we don't know why. And so it starts out, and it's a book that is so popular in literature that other cultures accepted it and used it as a teaching model. In fact, it wasn't all that long ago, it wouldn't be unusual to find the book of Job in a public school reader because they used it as a form of literature, not as a way of promoting the faith, but because it was such a powerful piece of literature. And it went where few authors are compelled to go. So the book starts out talking about this very righteous man, this man after God's own heart, and Satan, who is known as the accuser, goes to God and says, I bet Job is only good and only righteous because it has significant reward for him. And God says, I don't believe that. I believe Job is righteous because Job is a righteous man. And Satan persuades God to let him test Job to prove who's right, God or Satan. Now that part of the book, of course, is not really known to man. I mean, we don't know that. But it sets up the rest of the book in such a way that we can begin to have a discussion about and a dialogue about why do good men suffer. So Job, being a righteous, godly man, is surrounded by friends who are righteous and godly. And they come and they give him counsel. Now Job loses everything. He has something like 10 children, 7 sons and 3 daughters. He is fabulously wealthy. Has huge herds of cattle and goats and sheep, and grazes them over vast amounts of land. And he only has one wife, so that's rare in the Old Testament. Usually men were selfish enough to take as many wives and concubines as they could get away with, but not generally. He was that righteous. So they begin to wonder, would all of Job's friends in one form or another say, you're being punished because there's something fundamentally wrong with you. You have sinned, you have done something to offend God, you have, you're not truly righteous, and therefore you suffer as a result of your sin. God is punishing you. And Job says, but why? I'm innocent. Job is unable. Job is unable to profess guilt when he's not guilty. And he refuses to. Even though he lost everything. Even though even his friends don't believe him or support him. Even though all of these things, his wife's famous words are, curse God and die. You are just worthless. You're worthless to me, you're worthless to humanity, you're cursed, and you cause all kinds of misery for those lives who you do touch. But Job says, and Job is dismayed. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what to make of it. He says, why me, Lord? Why? And he makes a plea to God. And he says, why are you punishing me? Why are you making me suffer? So Job assumes that he's being punished. Job assumes that he's being punished. responds. He says, if I'm suffering like this, it must be because I'm bad. And all of this goes on and on and on. And finally, God speaks. And God doesn't answer Job's questions. What God says is this: who is that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? He's speaking of Job's friends. He says, you're just talking like you know what you're talking about, and you don't know anything. Brace yourself like a man, and I will question you, and you shall answer me. That's what he tells Job. He says, where were you when I laid the foundation? Tell me if you understand who marked off its dimensions. Surely you know, you're so smart. You have the answers to everything. Who stretched a measuring line across the universe? Or where were its footing sets? Or who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Just a little insight into creation and the joy that was brought on the universe when it happened. Who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place, when I said, this far you may come and no further. Here is where your proud waves halt. Have you ever given orders to the morning? Do you tell the sun to get up every day? Do you? Or show the dawn its place? That it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. The wicked are denied their light, and their upraised arm is broken. Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been shown to you? Have you seen the gates of the shadow? Have you comprehended the vast expanses of the earth? Tell me if you know all of this. You seem to know everything. I think of people that we've had in the course of human history, like Darwin and Hawkins, and how they seem to think they know everything about the universe. And I wonder if they've ever read this. They don't. They don't know any more than the rest of us. I mean, they're just men. But God created this. He made it exist. Why is the way to the abode of light? What is the way to the abode of light, and where does darkness reside? Can you take me there? Can you take me to those places? Do you know the paths of their dwellings? Surely you know, for you were already born. You have lived so many years. In other words, he's saying you're acting like you were here when I created everything. You're so smart. And surely Job gets his foolishness as he begins to hear God speak. And he realizes he doesn't know everything. And he says, God says, can you bind up the beautiful Pleiades? Or can you loosen the cords of Orion? In other words, the constellations. Can you bring forth the constellations in their season, or lead the bear with its cubs? He's talking about those stars that form the image of a bear. Do you know the laws of heaven? Can you set up God's dominion on earth? Can you do that? Can you do that? Can we? Do you give the horse its strength or clothe its neck with full of mane? Do you make him leap like a locust, striking terror with his proud snorting? He paws fiercely, rejoicing his strength, and charges into the fray. He laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. He does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against his side, along with the flashing spear and lance. In frenzied excitement, he eats up the ground. He cannot stand still when the trumpet sounds. At the blast of the trumpet, he snorts. Aha! He catches the scent of battle from afar, the shout of his commanders, and the battle cry. So God not only created the heavens and the earth, he created the creatures that walk. Have you ever seen a calf at birth? Have you ever seen a goat give birth to a child, to a kid? A chicken lays. We all see things in nature and wonder how it is.